Hello, this is Dr. Bolden. I wanted to go over some additional details about our unit plan and outline. A lot of you are choosing to do English language arts, which is fine, but I want to give you some pointers to help as you revise your unit. I've got another example I'm going to be posting using The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. One of the things you'll find is in order to really build a good unit, you want a theme. You want to build it around something. So you want to have a specific story or a collection of stories. Like I know some of you are choosing to do Greek mythologies. So you want to have something specific that you're going to work with. Now, the template that I posted was because some people were asking for something a little more solid to follow. But you need to understand it didn't have everything that was required, and it had things on there that you didn't need. So you always want to make sure you are checking the rubric for how something is going to be graded. All right, so for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, this is a 5th grade English language arts unit, and I've developed it using what is recommended in our syllabus. Okay, so you'll see here these are the things that you need to include in your unit plan. So that's what we want to make sure that we have. This is developed for a class of 22 5th graders. 3 are ESOL students at the early emergent level, and then I have 4 students at the tier 2, meeting in small group every day. And then there's 1 tier 3 student behavior modification, but that won't come into the plan. I've chosen 4 standards for this unit, having to do with determining the theme, comparing and contrasting characters, settings, and events, determining the meaning of words and phrases, and then explaining how the series of scenes fit together in the overall story. Okay, so from those 4, I've written 6 learning objectives. You need to have a minimum of 6. So the first one, the proper format. This is the ABCD format: audience, behavior, condition, and degree of mastery. So Dr. Bolden's 5th grade students will be able to identify main characters of a story on a quiz scoring 80% or higher. This course is about assessment, and we're developing assessment. So everything I'm doing is going to be quizzes. Okay, so you need to get with that mindset. Okay, so identify main characters. This goes with this second one, compare and contrast 2 or more characters. So before I have them compare and contrast, I'm going to make sure they can identify these characters and their details. My second objective is to be able to compare and contrast characters. And then they're going to compare and contrast setting. So these first 3 learning objectives come from this one standard. Then I'm going to have them describe figurative language and its impact on story. Okay, that goes with this standard right here. They're going to describe the themes of a story, which goes back to this first standard up here, and then evaluate how a scene fits within the overall structure of the story. Okay, so those are my 6 learning objectives. Each one of these has its own lesson. When you describe your lesson, remember, you're supposed to be teaching this in 3 weeks. So it needs to be a solid lesson. You need to know what materials you're using. You need to have these resources available. Okay, so it needs to be developed from that mindset. So for my first lesson, it's called Who, What, Where, When, and Why. As students read the chapters of the story assigned by chunks, they're going to maintain a story log. The story log will have graphic organizers that identify character, setting, plot, conflict, and resolution. So they're going to have their reading assignments, and then they meet in small groups to discuss these different parts of the log. Okay, and so here's a schedule. It's spread out over 6 reading assignments, so we're talking about 1 to 2 weeks to complete. For my accommodations, in my description, I talked about my ESOL and my ESE students, so I'm going to make sure I have accommodations for my ESOL. Before we start reading, I want to give those students the opportunity to watch the movie so they have a visual of what it looks like. I want to have illustrated books for them. And then as we work in our small group, I'm going to make sure I have visual vocabulary. For my ESC students, discussing it in small groups, so when we meet in our Tier 2 group, and then give them the opportunity to listen to the story being read, whether it's myself reading it or if I have the auditory recording of it that they can listen to. Lesson 2, my character has grown more than your character. All right, so this is the activity that they're going to do. The materials, they need a copy of the book, they need sticky notes. Each group's going to have poster paper and then art supplies to make their posters. And then we talk about my accommodations for the ESOL and the ESE. All right, so you can see it's a brief description of the lesson, but it's detailed. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. I know exactly what I'm going to need. Having a source for your lesson is always a good idea. For CPALMS, this is a 5th grade English Language Arts. So going down to my English Language Arts. When I look at my standards, okay, and so for this one, we're going to use this one, compare and contrast. A lot of the CPALMs have related resources. And for this one, there's different novels that they can use, and they have The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So when I go to that resource, it gives me the link. All right, and so it has specific lessons related to the book. So for here, the language of setting, I'm using this this lesson number 1. So here I've described the lesson. Here gives me the step-by-step. So when I actually do the lesson, I want to have this because this is what I want to do. Okay, so that's why these resources are good. And then you also see that again, I am thinking of a theme. So deciding theme, here's another lesson that I've used from here. And then my last lesson is how did we get here? All right, so these are my 6 lessons. So please notice they are described and explained. Okay, then the other important thing I need to have is my content outline. All right, so an outline is a professional skill that you need to learn. You're in master classes and you're going to be expected to work at this level. You can find information on outlining if you're not familiar with it in your APA manual. Everyone should have an APA manual. That's where you write your references, find out how to write citations, all that good stuff. An outline uses Roman numerals for the main headings, and then it goes to capitalized letters, then it goes to numbers, then it goes to lowercase letters. So you are expected to be able to outline in this way. In Microsoft Word, it will set up pretty much the way you want it to. If you have a different program that you use, you may need to use your tab key to help with moving things over to where they belong. So notice that the capital letters are indented from the 1, 2, 3. Numbers are indented from the capital letters. Lowercase letters are indented from the numbers. Okay, so that's something that I'm going to be looking for. Vocabulary, as you look at your unit, what are the specific vocabulary words that your students are going to be learning during the unit? So you're going to list them, list the definitions. Skills. Only list skills if you are teaching a lesson on how to develop that skill. For example, in my plan, they're going to be comparing and contrasting. So part of this lesson is going to be about how do you compare and contrast. So I'm going to want to make sure that I do that. If it's not being taught in the lesson, you don't have to include it. If you don't have any skills, then you would just have skills and then move straight on to content. With my standards that I have selected, I'm looking at literary elements, character, setting, theme, plot points. These are the specific details I'm going to expect my students to learn the main characters. I'm going to expect them to learn the setting. I'm going to expect them to be able to describe and explain these 5 themes. And then these are the main plot points of things that happen in the story. Alright, so that's the specificity of what I'm looking for when it comes to developing your outline. Alright, so I hope these examples help. I will be posting them in our course. I'll add them in here so that you have them to take a look at. So please remember to take a look at these as you are revising for this week, submitting your content outline and your unit plan. If you have further questions, you're welcome to email me. I will be back in the office on Thursday. If you want to meet up in person for a little more information, that is perfectly fine. I'll be happy to meet with you. So, have a great day.